All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this community input session regarding the proposed fiscal year 2025 to 2030 Transportation Priorities Plan, or TPP. My name is Ben Boxer, and I have been asked to host and moderate this evening's session. Before we begin, I'd like to let everyone know that this meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be posted on YouTube and linked on our public input and county websites. Spanish translation for this evening's meeting is available by downloading and using the free Microsoft Teams app. When you enter the meeting through the app, you should receive a notification that will prompt you to select your preferred language. If you did not receive that notification, please try leaving the meeting and rejoining through the app, and you should be able to access that translation. Microsoft Teams also does offer live captioning service. You can find that by clicking the three dots labeled More on your screen. Go to Record and Transcribe and click Show Transcript. As you may know, the public comment period for the feedback on the proposed Transportation Priorities Plan opened on July 2nd. We're very grateful to those who have submitted comments over the last 2 weeks. The public comment period will remain open until 4:30 p.m. next Wednesday, July 23rd. For more information on how to participate and submit comments online, over the phone, or by mail, please visit our website at fairfaxcounty.gov/transportation/TPP. This evening, our staff will present a brief overview of the Transportation Priorities Plan. Following the presentation, we will open the floor for a question and answer period. You're welcome to use the chat function at any time during the meeting to submit questions to our presenters and support staff. We will be going through and answering questions following the presentation in the order in which they are received. Please note that your submissions to the chat will be part of the public record for this meeting. If you are on the phone, we ask that you please hold your questions to the end. We have instructions on how to ask questions at the conclusion of the presentation for anyone dialing in. I'd like to first introduce some of the supporting cast for this evening. First, we have Ray Johnson and Smitha Chilapa, who will be our primary presenters for the presentation. You may also know that we are joined by a large supporting cast from staff from the Department of Transportation who are available to assist with responding to your questions. So we'll be sure to have them introduce themselves as they are called upon to respond. We're also joined this evening by several staff members representing our Board of Supervisors, and we want to thank you for taking the time to be a part of this meeting and joining us this evening. At this time, I'll go ahead and turn the time over to Ray for a brief introduction to the TPP, and he'll be followed by Smitha, who will take us a little deeper into what's included in this proposal.
Thank you, Ben. Good evening, folks. Thanks for taking the time this evening to join us for tonight's discussion on the FY 25 through 30 Transportation Priority Plan for the county. Briefly, the TPP serves as the county's 6-year roadmap, if you will, for advancing transportation projects. These projects include anything and everything from roadway work or improvements to Fairfax connector buses, bicycle tracks to shared use paths. A main focus in planning for the TPP is improving safety and transit access, reducing congestion, and ensuring the supporting growth throughout the county. About 2 weeks ago, staff had posted a presentation online which outlined the proposed projects and the funding strategy for the Transportation Priority Plan. So tonight's meeting is intended to be an opportunity for you to ask questions, share input, as your feedback does play an important role in shaping transportation priorities in the county. So again, thank you for participating. I'm going to turn it over to Smitha Chilapa, Smith will walk us through a summary of the presentation and introduce our team. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. So good evening, everyone. My name is Smita Chalapa, and I'm with the funding section in the Coordination and Funding Division here at FCDOT. Before I get into the presentation, I wanted to take a quick moment to mention that the Fairfax County Department of Transportation and Fairfax Connector, they operate programs and services without regard to race, color, and national origin in accordance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. So for more information, please see the link that's included on the slide. So as Ray mentioned, the TPP is the county's roadmap for investing in transportation infrastructure over the next 6 years. It outlines how we plan to fund and deliver a wide range of projects, from roads to transit to bicycle and pedestrian improvements. So this meeting is a chance to share that plan, gather your input, and promote community involvement to help shape the proposed plan. So 2 weeks ago, as Ray mentioned, we posted a 17-slide presentation online, and that walks through the proposed TPP. And the presentation included a background on how the TPP is developed, funding projections and priorities. It highlighted some of the projects that were recently completed, and a breakdown of the proposed expenditures for fiscal years 2025 through 2030. That presentation is still available on the TPP website, and it can be viewed anytime. And tonight we will briefly recap the highlights. So we are joined this evening by several members of the Fairfax County Department of Transportation who are here to answer your questions. We have subject matter experts in capital projects, active transportation, transportation planning, and transportation design. They will be available throughout the session to respond to any questions that you may have about the plan, specific projects, or how funding decisions are made. So the Transportation Priorities Plan, or the TPP, is the county's main tool for organizing transportation investments. So it helps us decide which capital projects can move forward and when they can move forward. It includes all types of improvements, such as roads, transit, sidewalks, trails, and even studies that help guide future investments. So the TPP is updated periodically to reflect available funding, changes in priorities, and public input. And everything that we're proposing for fiscal years 2025 through 2030 is part of this broader planning effort. So for this 6-year period, we anticipate about $3.9 billion in total transportation funding. And that funding comes from many sources. We have federal grants, state programs such as Smart Scale, regional bodies like NVTA, and local revenue bonds and taxes. And some of the biggest commitments include operating the Fairfax Connector, repaying the Silver Line loan, and funding Metro's dedicated share. So the expenditure estimate for the proposed TPP is $3.9 billion, with significant allocations for major roadway capital, transit, and active transportation projects. And as you can see in this table, we have $1.8 billion that's allocated to major roadway projects. And this includes widenings, extensions, interchanges. And please note that the road widening projects, they typically include active transportation components like trails, shared use paths and sidewalks, and sometimes even bike lanes. We have $1.2 billion allocated to transit operating and capital projects, more than $350 million to active transportation projects, about $240 million for spot and intersection improvements, and the $75 million in Reston and Tysons. These include developer contributions, road funds that are reserved for projects that are currently in the TPP, and Reston and Tyson Service District projects. So as part of this TPP update, we are including $20 million in discretionary funds. This is going to be available for all the districts in the county. The proposed TPP includes some big efforts that are already in progress. The Richmond Highway Bus Rapid Transit, or BRT project alone, it represents about $774 million investment over the next 6 years. We are also proposing funding for critical corridor projects like the Route 7 widening between 495 and 66, Frontier Drive and Soapstone Drive. And some projects like Davis Drive and Braddock Road Phase 2, these projects have partial funding and they still remain on our plan. And to support walking, biking, and safety upgrades, the board, as you probably know, had previously dedicated $100 million exclusively for active transportation projects between now and fiscal year 30. So I would now like to talk a little bit about some of the challenges we are facing and what are the next steps in this process. So due to current revenue constraints, we are proposing to focus revenues on existing projects, except for the $100 million that's set aside for active transportation. We're facing funding limitations at the state, federal, and regional levels. And we're also seeing cost increases on projects due to rising costs and inflation. So, however, we are still inviting public feedback. It's important to note that if there are new ideas or needs, they would have to replace an existing project. And we will work with the relevant supervisor's office to review any comments that we receive from the public. So I will now hand it over to Ben, who will go through the public engagement process. And thank you again for being here and participating in this process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Smitha and Ray, for that brief overview of the TPP. We've come to the crux of the reason that we are here tonight is to hear from you, to receive your feedback and comments. We'll begin by going through and taking questions from the chat by those who are in attendance. Please, if you have questions or comments, you can use the chat function on your on the view screen here to enter those questions, and we will be happy to answer them. For those who are calling by telephone, we would ask that you raise your hand if you have a question by dialing *5. That will indicate that you're ready to speak, and then when we call upon you, you can hit *6 to unmute your phone. And we would ask that you keep your comments or questions to 2 minutes on the telephone, just so that we can keep the flow of the meeting going. And so we'll take a moment here and see what questions there are and how we can address them. I see that we have some questions here in the chat. Smitha, if you'd like to.
Sure, I can read the first one. The first one is by Chris French. So the question is, in June 2024, VDOT completed a Blake Lane pedestrian road safety audit, which resulted in dozens of short-term, mid-term, and long-term remediation projects that would improve safety for pedestrians and cyclists, as well as all other road users. None of those have been implemented to date, and it does not appear any are included in the TPP list. Was the Blake RSA reviewed as part of the development of these priorities? And if yes, can you explain why none made the cut? Thanks. Thank you for that question, Chris. And I will ask Michael Guarino to answer this question.
Hi, thank you for the question. I'm Michael Guarino. I'm Chief of the Capital Project Sections with FCDOT. So as Smith had mentioned, there is no new money with the TPP, so they weren't looking to fund new projects. But as she also noted in the presentation, there's roughly about 43 million left of the $100 million effort for active transportation. So if there's some specific active transportation improvements as part of the safety audit, we can look at those with some future allocations of that money. If you have specific things, of course, please provide your feedback, and we can, you know, as Smith has said, can work with the board members and district board supervisors on the comments we get to see if there's any change in priorities that need to be done with the plan.
Thank you, Michael. We do have another question from Elizabeth Martin. Where in the TPP is maintenance for bicycle trails found, or is that a different part of FCDOT's budget? Ray, do you want to take that question?
I can attempt to take that question. So I can say in general, we do not maintain many of the trails in transportation, and I may have to lean on Michael Garino to some extent. There may be exceptions, but for the most part, maintenance maintenance is the responsibility of and funded by Department of Public Works. Did I hork that up, Michael, or did I get that semi-right?
Nope, you got it. So the trails and sidewalks along roadways are either maintained by the county's Department of Public Works and Environmental Services, and they have a separate budget to handle that maintenance. And then VDOT also maintains a lot of the trails and sidewalks in the roadways as well. Off-road trails and active transportation facilities are either private, maybe Park Authority or another entity.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Michael.
If I could, I see that we have a few hands in the room. If we could use the chat to enter your questions, that would be helpful in terms of keeping us going in order. Just a reminder for that. So thank you.
All right, here's another question. Can you explain how VDOT's PBSAP, that's VDOT's Pedestrian and Bicycle Safety Action Plan, is used to inform TPP priorities? Are PBSAP top 1% corridors prioritized for projects? And are PBSAP top 5% corridors prioritized for projects? Thanks. So Laura Ghosh, would you like to answer that question, please?
Hi, everyone. I am Laura Ghosh. I am the Active Transportation Section Chief here at Fairfax County DOT. And we regularly use the VDOT Pedestrian Bicycle Action Plan to inform the type of crosswalk improvements that are implemented at intersections throughout Fairfax County. And so that's how we're actively using it. And that goes into the prioritization process because it factors into how much a project is going to cost and therefore informs priorities. Particularly when we're applying for grant funding through VDOT and also getting approval for the various projects that we do.
Thank you, Laura. Moving on to the next question. Are you saying that the FY 2020-2025 and FY 25-30 are the same projects? The spreadsheet would be identical. How does this list relate to VDOT capital project plans? And are these projects identified in one of the ArcGIS maps that the county maintains? I can try to answer that question. So the FY 2020 and 2025, that is the existing TPP. And most of the projects that are in the existing plan are still in the proposed plan. So you will see a lot of the projects in both the plans, in both the spreadsheets, the one that's online. So how does this list relate to VDOT capital project plans? All of the VDOT projects, capital projects, are included in our TPP. So those projects are in the list as well. And if those projects are identified in one of the ArcGIS maps, I cannot say that all the projects that are in the TPP that's on our list, in the proposed list, are on any map, but I'm sure most of them are either in the capital projects interactive map that's online, but I will have to check and I'll get back to you on that. Here's another question regarding no new projects. Does that mean a new project won't be considered for prioritization until the FY 30-35 plan? So not really. So as I mentioned during the presentation, we do have limited resources, and current funding is committed to existing projects that are in the TPP. So if there is an interest or a request for a new project, this existing and one of the existing projects will need to be replaced with what is being suggested. So, and of course, this will have to be coordinated with the supervisor's office, and who's representing the district where the request is being made for the project. And we can take a closer look at this suggestion follow-up as to what is appropriate. All right, here's another question. The Oakton-Chainbridge corridor is suffering huge traffic gridlock. We have 4 pedestrian deaths in the past 4 years on roads intersecting Chainbridge Road. 7 intersections operate below acceptable levels of service. The majority of intersections have been given an F or an E. We do have a study authorized. However, we need to have monies budgeted to fix our intersections. What can we do to make this happen? I'd like to ask Michael Guarino if he can answer this question, please. Thank you.
Hi, yeah, I'm not working on that study personally, but that's one of the things our planning group does is, and other agencies in the department is conduct studies to identify future capital projects. Since we don't have specific recommendations yet, there's nothing to consider. So, with this being a 6-year plan, like theoretically, it means it could be 6 years before we can consider it. But as Smith mentioned, feedback is important. So I think once we get those recommendations, we can make those a priority and start looking to see if there's ways to fund them. But they're not included in the plan right now. Again, primarily, because right now the plan's primarily funding existing projects.
Smith, this is Mike. Can I help out too with this?
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
I'll speak for Smith.
I'm sorry. Good,
That's
thank
okay.
you.
I got it. My name is Mike Garcia. I'm the chief of the transportation planning section within FCDOT. So we handle a lot of the corridor studies and long range studies. So we are currently starting the 123 congestion relief study, which includes kind of a look at the Oakton area. We will be going out to the public in the fall to start soliciting input ideas. I think it's kind of premature for anything to kind of make it into the actual TPP at this time, as we need to go through the study and planning phase and figure out what the improvements are, and then working with the public, prioritize those improvements into buckets of what can be done in the near term versus the long term. So look for that study to kind of and hear more about it starting in the fall as we kind of get it going. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. We do have another question. Can you please provide the spreadsheet in Excel format to make it easier to work with? I believe I can send a PDF uh, if that works. The only reason we were not able to post that online is because we have to meet certain accessibility conditions. So if you can pass your email or contact information, I can certainly send you a PDF of the entire list that was included on the website.
And Smith, if I could just add to your answer there, if you'd like to submit your email or submit your contact and the item that you're looking for to dotinfo@fairfaxcounty.gov, we'll make sure that it gets to the right team.
Thank you, Ben. All right, the next question, a bit down in the weeds, but can you provide more details on TPP number Z51, pole-mounted speed displays, which appears to represent $100,000 in TPP funds? I assume these are speed feedback signs, have locations being identified. Thanks. So I believe the actual amount is only $1,000 that's remaining. There was an original amount of $30,000 that was approved for this project, and which is being handled by the police department. So if you're looking for a list of the locations that have been identified, please leave your contact information and I can get you in touch with somebody at the police department who can provide you that list. Thank you.
And Smith, I'll add, I believe what the police have are mobile, so they move them around and switch locations.
Okay, thank you, Michael. All right, so when you say no new projects, unless the new project replaces an existing project, can the funding for the old project be transferred to the new one? Ray, do you want to take that question?
I would say as we're in the review process, taking public input, vetting said input, and coming up with a recommendation to the board. If it made sense to pull funding from a project and to put it onto something new, if it met with staff recommendation, then I think we would be okay making that proposal to the board, but it only during the review process. Once the TPP becomes approved, we don't do it as a matter of standard business, if you will. But through the TPP process, yes, or the TPP review process.
All right, thank you, Ray. Here's another question for Michael. How much of the $800,000 of funding allocated towards the Birch Road missing segment of sidewalk was used for the study? Now that the study has been completed, what is the estimated figure to complete the sidewalk? When will you be sending to Glenn Harris, MCA Chair, Transportation Committee, the results of the study? It is important that the county fully fund this project, TPP number 24007, as soon as possible, as it is very dangerous. It's a very dangerous thoroughway with no sidewalk on either side and many school children and pedestrians on the road walking to 3 schools nearby, as well as parents, grandparents pushing a baby strollers. Will it be fully funded in the next few weeks?
Yeah, so That was funded for some preliminary engineering. We did roughly 10% of a very high level order of magnitude estimate of around 8 million for the project. So 7.2 million, very high level ballpark, but that's the order of magnitude of additional funds we would need to do the project. We've drafted a scoping document. We have circulated that for comments. We do have some comments we need to look at. I'm working and my team's working with Glenn directly. So we'll get something to him as soon as we have something that will be useful, and we'll follow up with him.
Thank you, Michael. Another question, has FCDOT considered a project to develop or adopt a methodology for estimating demand or needs for trails in particular places? Laura Ghosh, do you want to take that question?
Yeah, so the active Fairfax project developed a methodology to identify regional and local trails throughout Fairfax County and identify where they were needed. The Board of Supervisors recently authorized a comprehensive plan amendment to adopt the recommendations from the active Fairfax County project. And we hope to seek additional public input for the proposed plan and associated map and recommended facilities sometime this fall.
Thank you, Laura. There's a question on ArcGIS. So I must have missed the answer to this. Can someone give the answer to the ArcGIS question in the chat? I can provide a link to where you can find some of these projects, actually most of these projects on capital projects, the interactive map. So I will put that link in the chat. The next question, has there been any consideration given to widening Route 1 south from Lorton Road to the CSX overpass? This section of the roadway experiences significant bottlenecks daily, especially as it serves as an alternate route from I-95 when traffic on I-95 is backed up. Perhaps Michael Greeno or Mike Garcia, would you be able to help out with this question?
Yeah, we are aware there are projects that have been looked at, but they're currently not funded. So I think that's on our comprehensive plan, but we currently do not have funding.
So point out that we have a current Lorton study going on right now in which we're looking, Route 1 is part of that study all the way south to the county line. What we're doing right now is going through our analysis testing, and we're going to be presenting to the task force that's been appointed to that sometime in the near future. So if you're interested in Lorton comp plan amendment, and you can find out more and come to the meeting and hear more about the transportation analysis.
Thank you both. Here's the next comment. Concerning chain bridge intersections, FCDOT acknowledges that we have a problem and we have a transportation study that documents our intersection issues. Why can't we earmark monies towards a fix, even though we do not know what the fix will be? Why do we have to wait until a study is completed? Sorry, Michael, I think this is in your arena.
Well, the simple fact of the matter is there's not a lot of money sitting around to hold. So as Smith had noted, the funding is primarily going to existing projects to keep them going. So there isn't like a bunch of money that we can hold for these future project recommendations.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, next question, perhaps for Mike Garcia or Michael. There is a sidewalk that needs to be completed on Kirby Road from Birch Road to Franklin Avenue from the corner address of Kirby Road, which is actually 1802 Franklin Avenue to 1871 Kirby Road. Does FCDOT have this on their list of active transportation projects? If not, why? And if not, will it be added by FCDOT? Also, how is that an ADA compliant curb exists at the corner of Franklin Avenue and Kirby Road, when by regulation, such a curb must be part of a continuous sidewalk network? If there is no connecting sidewalk, how is this installation considered compliant?
So I cannot speak to the specifics, and we'll have to look up later if it's on our unfunded project request list. We have a large list of project requests and unfunded active transportation projects, so we'll review that, and if it's not on there, we'll add it to the list. I can't speak to the specifics of that curb ramp.
Thank you, Michael. Next question. Pedestrians in Fairfax County are involved in approximately 1% of crashes, but represent more than 40% of fatalities. An investment of what happens to be not more than 10% in bike ped projects is inadequate, particularly given a $1 billion investment in widening projects. I would like to see a more significant investment in sustainable modes like ped, bike, and transit. Thank you for your comment. Would anybody like to respond to that?
Hi, I can shed some light specifically regarding the widening projects and the investment in widening projects. So there's a requirement that widening projects also need to include a consideration of bicycle and pedestrian components. And so many of our widening projects do add bicycle and pedestrian facilities. And that contributes to the high cost because those facilities typically require additional right-of-way, considerable amounts of right-of-way.
Thank you, Laura. Here's another question on Birch Road. The Birch Road missing segment of sidewalk project was estimated to cost 1.4 million, and now it is in the 7 million range. Did I hear this correctly?
I'm looking that up, make sure I did not get that confused with something else. I apologize. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, we funded that from more than preliminary engineering. So I'll have to pull the latest estimate on that. So we'll have to follow up on that one.
Thank you, Michael. Next question. I would like an easy way to track all transportation projects within the geographic area of Oakton that are being planned and or funded by any means of funding, whether it's FCDOT or VDOT. Please advise on the best way to track this information. We will have to get back to you on that regarding this project. And I'm happy to do that. Next question, please explain the increase for Reston Tyson's. Thank you. So I can explain a little bit, and maybe Ray, you can hop on if there's any more clarification that needs to be made. But the projects that are included in the Reston and Tyson's district, service district, these are funds that are allocated for future projects. And that is why you're seeing the increase in what was estimated in the 2025 plan versus what is being proposed in the current plan. And so, Ray, did you have anything else to add to that?
Thanks, Smith. I'll just add on very quickly. So those particular areas in the county have their own funding plans. They have basically a plan to fund transportation infrastructure through so many years. Now, those funding plans also come with specific funding streams. Like each of those areas has its own service district. They each have their own road fund, which are developer contributions toward transportation projects. In a nutshell, Tyson's has 2 road funds. So the increase is more or less amounts to that. I mean, we can only spend those dollars in the Reston and Tyson's area.
Thank you, Ray. Here's another question. The Germantown, Board Street, Chain Bridge, Hunter Mill Road, Chain Bridge Road, Germantown Road, Chain Bridge Road, Miller Road, and Chain Bridge Road wide granite intersections have all become even more dangerous, heavily traveled, and are jammed during rush hour. What alleviation or remedy does your study provide for existing residents, given that there will be an influx of even more residents in this very area? What remedy are you offering in terms of crosswalks that are more noticeable and safer for pedestrians to cross these roads? I think Mike Garcia and then maybe Laura, if you could answer that question.
Sorry, thanks. We just completed a comprehensive plan amendment for the AT&T Oakton site, which includes that area. As part of that, we have put in recommendations in the comprehensive plan that actually speak to improvements along that intersection and kind of all the ones nearby. There is a current rezoning case also going on with that particular site right now, in which they're looking at what portions of improvements they are going to be responsible for constructing. It is my understanding that zoning case is not currently approved, so you can actually look it up on our Plus system to kind of see the status of it. As far as the improvements that are going with that, we are also again going through the Oakton congestion relief study of 123, in which we're going to kind of take that intersection and the surrounding intersections and incorporate that into the study to see what adjustments, if any, we should make in order to kind of make for a holistic change. So I understand there's a lot of interest in that particular area, especially along the 123 corridor. Again, I just ask that you all kind of engage with us as we do the outreach for the 123 congestion study starting in the early fall. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Here's another question regarding the methodology that Laura says has been developed. Could you please put a link to it in the chat? We can certainly circle back with the link. Another question: if a project is not funded, it is because it has not been approved for funding by the Board of Supervisors, correct? That is correct. Is the sidewalk trails project along Pohick Road between Route 1 and Route 95 on the list of approved projects? I will have to check the list and get back to you, but if anybody, staff knows the answer to that, could you please respond? Thank you.
Sorry, Smith, I was looking stuff up. That project is included. It's in implementation with our design group.
Thank you. Yeah, we can include, if it has a TPP number associated with that, I can include that in the chat with more project details if it's available. Okay. Should we request budgetary monies be included for Chain Bridge Corridor by making this request with our district supervisor? I believe you can certainly, that's a good starting point. Any requests for new projects should be made to the supervisor's office, and we will coordinate with them. And as I'd mentioned earlier, as long as if we have to add a new project, it has to be a switch with an existing project that already doesn't have any funding that's allocated to it, whether if it has any state funding, any regional funding or federal funding, then it's likely that that's probably not a good candidate to be switched out, but that's something we'll have to engage with the supervisor's offices to see if we can make that accommodation.
Smith, if I could chime in really quick, just a reminder for anyone who's joined us, please insert your questions into the chat. We're kind of going through them as we receive them. And then I do think we may have missed one question on the question just above the one that we just asked. Is that correct? Are you saying that, or I'm still not clear on the process for creating the list. Are you saying there's no new money for 2025 to 30? Is this list updated every year or every 5 years?
Oh, did I miss that? Somebody, okay, I might have missed that. Okay, I'm sorry about that. So are you saying there is no new money for 2025, 2030? That is correct. The revenues are constrained for this plan. And is this list updated every year or every 5 years? So it's not a hard rule that it has to be updated every 5 years, but then we do visit it periodically to see if we need to make any changes to the TPP. So to answer your question, it's typically updated every 5-6 years, but not necessarily. Ray, did you have anything to add to that?
No, you hit the nail on the head. I should have just blanked my camera.
Thank you. Okay, the next one we have here is the Frontier Drive extension funded? Is funding anticipated? It is rich irony to propose a 4-lane road across the metro station grounds that would constitute a bypass to metro. The Frontier Drive extension project is funded, but we are actively applying for funding, whether it's through regional sources like NVTA or Smart Scale. So we will continue to do that to fully fund the project. And the exact amount that has been funded is available on the project website. Next question, who do we call when there's gravel all over the road, intersection of Tucker Avenue and Birch Road? The gravel needs to be removed. A new home was built a little over a year ago, and on the side of the road, gravel was added for some reason. And there is a pile on one corner of the road and at the intersection of Birch Road and Tucker Avenue. And a lot of it has washed through the intersection and down Tucker Avenue. I believe this is a question for VDOT. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody on staff here?
You're correct, VDOT.
Thank you, Michael. How do new county policies play a role in TPP priorities? For example, resilient Fairfax memos. I believe this is a question I can ask Noel to maybe respond to.
Hi, sorry everybody, I was having technical difficulties. This is Noel Dominguez with the Coordination and Funding Division. However, I might still be having technical difficulties. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I was getting feedback. I apologize. I can't speak to individual memos that were referenced, but I think we looked through our project list to ensure that it complies with policies such as One Fairfax and as was referenced at the beginning of the presentation, we are also subject to all Title VI requirements, but we do keep abreast of all the county's policies and priorities when putting together this list. Thank you.
Thank you, Noel.
If I could really quick, I did see a comment that just came in. If you have additional questions or comments about the TPP plan, you can certainly email them to us at dotinfo@fairfaxcounty.gov. But you can also submit them to us online as part of our public input. Again, just a reminder on the screen before you, our public comment period and questions period will remain open through next Wednesday, July 23rd. And we'd be happy to continue to collect your comments through that website. Again, it's the publicinput.com -Y02188. It's a convoluted address. I will put it in the chat to make it easier for you all to link to it right from the chat, so you want to type it all in. But that's an optimal place for you to continue to submit your comments and your questions regarding the TPP. For the record, thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Here's one more question. Is the Chain Bridge Corridor study in Oakton on this list? I don't believe it is, but I will check and I can get back on this one.
Smith, this is Mike. It's not on the TPP list. We have the study funded through another source of funds, so we are funded and moving forward.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be all the questions that we have received in the chat so far. Did anybody have any other questions?
And if you bear with me for just a moment, I am getting that copied, getting that email address, and we'll be pasting it to the chat here in just a moment.
Here's a couple more questions. On September 24, 2024, the board approved an additional sum of approximately $25 million for the Birch Road sidewalk. Or will the Birch Road sidewalk be fully funded with this? I think this question is regarding the third batch of active transportation projects that the board approved. I will look to Michael Guarino for a response on that. I'm not sure if this project is in that third batch of projects.
So we've allocated about 56 million and change. So there's about 43 and change million left to fund from that 100 million goal the board set. So we would look to fully fund the rest of the Birch Road project from a future allocation.
Thank you, Michael. So there was one comment on traffic calming as to why the decrease in traffic calming expenditures. I don't believe we have anyone from our traffic calming staff at this meeting today, and I will check with them and I can get back on this question. Here's another question. So you don't include projects?
So,
yeah.
Sorry, Smith, I just catching up here. I know I just heard today that there was some money put into the traffic calming program with the regular FY26 budget. I imagine something that was in the TPP was supplemental. So that's probably the reason, but we can look into that.
Here's one comment. So you don't include projects from all sources of funding on this list. We do all the revenue sources, local, state, federal, they're all regional, they're all included in our revenue projections.
Smith,
And
I'll
here-
jump in. There are some other sources of money in our budget, or maybe from other means that don't come in for these larger capital investments or operating that aren't encompassed, which is, and one of those money sources is what Mike Garcia was referring to. That was funding that corridor study.
Thank you.
And just one last, I see that we have, if additional questions, who can we email? I've included our email address, our main email address, dotinfo@fairfaxcounty.gov. If you have questions about specific projects, please feel free to, or the TPP, please feel free to email us those questions to that email address and we can direct them to the appropriate staff for response. Additionally, in the chat, I do have a link to our public input page where you can continue to submit comments based on the information provided and the items that are on the plan. This is very valuable feedback, and we do appreciate you taking the time to share that with us. I do see a couple of folks who have raised their hands. If you could enter your questions, if you still have them, into the chat. We do have about 3 minutes left in our allotted time for this meeting. We'd be happy to answer them if you could enter them in the chat.
So here's the question. Will these comments go to our district supervisor? Yes, at the end of the comment period, we will be compiling all of them and communicating with the relevant district offices, and that includes the supervisors and their staff. So yes. And are the recent political changes affecting the funding or compromising any key programs or projects? Noel, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Thank you, Smitha. Again, this is Noel Dominguez with the Coordination and Funding Division. We are keeping track. We understand that there are changes to federal funds as well as, changes always happen at the state and other levels as well. We have tried to be conservative with our estimates for this, but we do keep track of ongoing information at what is happening with various grant programs. And if there are changes, we will have to deal with them accordingly in the future.
Thank you, Noel. There's one comment on whether, will there be a Board of Supervisor vote on accepting this? If yes, is there a public hearing in advance of that, or is this comment period it? So there's not going to be another public hearing. There's not going to be a public hearing prior to the Board of Supervisors approving this proposed plan. We are anticipating taking this to our board for approval later this year, hopefully late fall or in November of this year. Will the comments on the transportation website go to the district supervisor as well? Yes, as I mentioned earlier, all the comments, we're going to compile them and coordinate those comments with the relevant supervisors. So yes. Here's one last comment. You have the staff and the resources to make this a lot easier for local citizens and civic groups to track local transportation projects in our area of interest. Please help us do our job better by making this information more accessible. Will do, and thank you for that comment.
Thank you. I would like to thank all of our staff for your participation tonight, and especially for the members of the public that have joined us, shared with us your comments and your feedback on this plan. I did see one final question just got dropped into the chat. Can we perhaps address that as a closing question, and then we can proceed to our final reminders and close out?
Sure, I can. The question is, how will the 25 million for active transportation projects be split among the county districts? Michael, do you want to take that one?
Yes, so we work with, we look at it geographically per district. So we have a prioritization process the board asks us to develop. And so with the results of that and future community input we're going to seek, we'll work with the board offices. We look at top projects in each district and try to roughly distribute money evenly throughout the districts.
Excellent. Thank you. We've reached our time allotment for this evening. I see there's one other question. If you could send that question to us at DOT info, along with any other questions anyone here in the meeting has, we'll be happy to get those questions to the appropriate staff and get them responded to as quickly as possible to get you that information. But we'd like to, again, thank everyone for taking the time to join us this evening. Remind everyone that a recording of the meeting will be made available online as soon as we download and have that file to be uploaded. And then please remember, we are continuing to receive and welcome female or comments online or over the phone or by mail for an additional week. Please visit our website at fairfaxcounty.gov/transportation/TPP for instructions on how to participate. Additionally, all comments must be received by 4:30 p.m. on Wednesday, July 23rd. So with that, thank you again for joining us this evening. And please continue to send us your comments and your questions to those addresses shared. Thank you very much and good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all.